It's another big weekend for Tide fans. The Alabama Crimson Tide's back at home. They're taking on North Texas tomorrow evening, and this will be Bama's last game before they begin conference play. WVUA Sports Director Gary Harris has been keeping a close eye on the Tide, and he joins me now with more. Gary, thanks for taking time to be with me again today,
It's a pleasure as always, Danny. Before we get into football, though, I want to comment on the Restaurant Rage video.
Wow.
Because, you know, I've had some interesting situations in fast food restaurants before.
This is true.
Because, you know, I've gotten back to the station. You've heard me say, I can't believe they put mayonnaise on that or something like that. And I've even called a couple of times to express my displeasure. But never, ever have I thought about grabbing a mop.
And going after the poor kid in there behind the register.
I hope that guy goes to jail.
Well,
because I mean, I
think you're going to get your wish. It shouldn't take them too long to round him up.
That's just uncalled for. But
totally.
You didn't bring me out here to talk about that, did you?
No, unfortunately, but that is fine.
Well, you know what? And this, no disrespect to the Mean Green in North Texas, because as Dan McCarney, their head coach, said, and I really like this guy. He did a great job when he was at Iowa State. Last 3 years, he's been the associate head coach and defensive line coach at Florida under Urban Meyer. He'll do a good job. And, you know, they're going to come in here and play hard, but there's really not much you can say about this game, Danny. I mean, Alabama is a 46-point favorite for a reason.
Right.
The talent level between the two teams there's a large gap. You know, this is one of those games a lot like the Kent State game. Even though it's the third game of the season, I think you're going to see Alabama still, you know, getting into a rhythm with their starters and then playing a lot of different guys. I think you'll see Phillip Sims quite a bit in this game at quarterback. And, you know, you just don't see it being a very competitive game. There are really a couple nice players from North Texas. Dunbar, their running back, could play for anybody in the country. Chancellor, their wide receiver, kick returner, and punt returner, is a great player. Their punter averages about 46 yards a punt, but that's about it. There's a big gap between these two teams.
But there are some teams that are playing this weekend in some very interesting matchups.
Yeah, and we're going to get that in a moment. In the meantime, let's go ahead and roll some Alabama video.
Sure, absolutely.
And we'll talk a little more about this game tomorrow. We'll look at some Alabama video against Penn State last week. We've also got some North Texas video on here. So some things I want to point out to look for. First of all, is Alabama ready to play? And I think you'll know that early on. You know, Arkansas is next week, Danny, in the SEC opener. Will Alabama come out, and will this be a 21-0 game in the first quarter? Or might it be a 10-3 game? Might they let North Texas hang around for a while? There's no doubt at the end of the day, this is going to be a wide margin in the final score. But I'll be interested to see the level of intensity. You know, Nick Saban always talks about playing every play, you know, every game has a life of its own. Don't look past anybody. That's what I'm going to be interested in seeing. Will Alabama, off that momentum of that Penn State victory, come out tomorrow and look like a dominant football team? You know, great football teams, Danny, look like great football teams even when they play less than great competition. That's what I'll be looking for tomorrow from Alabama.
Absolutely. You beat the people you're supposed to beat the way you're supposed to
beat them. You know, people will say, well, that was a bad team.
Right.
Well, did you beat them like they were a bad team?
Right.
Or did you struggle with them? And we've seen, you know, teams in the past at Alabama that have struggled. You know, just 4 years ago, Louisiana at Monroe came in here and won the game against Alabama. Now, I know this is a completely different Alabama team, but that's what I'll be watching for. Will the Tide take care of business? Also, as I mentioned, I'll be looking to see some of these young players get opportunities again. I think we'll see Haseen Clinton-Dix a lot at safety. I think Phillip Sims will get a lot of time, as I said, at quarterback, Jalston Fowler at running back, and things like that. But you're right. Interesting. You know, Alabama's got North Texas, which doesn't exactly show up big on the national radar, but there are some huge games tomorrow, nationally and in the SEC. And in the SEC, of course, in this state, everybody's watching Auburn at Clemson. And, you know, I've said this on the sports show this week. Auburn's won 17 games in a row. It started in the bowl game against Northwestern 2 years ago. They went 14-0 last year. They've won 2 more games this year. But really the game that kind of got them going, established their personality, was Clemson last year. They were down 17-0 at home, came back and won that game 27-24. In fact, in overtime, you'll remember, Danny, the Clemson quarterback, Kyle Parker, had a wide open receiver, and he just missed him. And that would have been the game winner for Clemson. Then they kicked the field goal. It was good. There was a penalty. They kicked it the second time. It was no good, and Auburn won that game.
There you are.
And that really is what just got them going. And then they, from that point on, they haven't lost. And they win games even when it looks like they've got no chance to win them. That's a big game. Tennessee at Florida is a big game. And, of course, nationally, Oklahoma and Florida State.
That's where the
Gosh, time flies when you're having fun.
It does, doesn't it? We're out of time, unfortunately. Don't forget, tonight you guys have big Friday night football.
Let me give you the rundown real quickly.
Sure.
5 o'clock, we've got Fearless Picks. 6 o'clock, I've got sports. 10 o'clock, I've got sports. 10:35, we've got Football Friday. Then tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., we've got Crimson Tide kickoff presented by Alpha Insurance. So big weekend, and tomorrow night with John Huddleston at 10:15. We've got Sports Saturday.
There you go. All right, thanks
Other
much.
than that, we don't have anything to do.
Nothing to do at all. All right, well, don't forget you can get your game day started bright and early right here on WVUA TV. Join Gary Harris and John Huddleston for Crimson Tide kickoff presented by Alpha Insurance Saturday at 8 a.m.